Thank you for joining us and welcome to another edition of Answers Network. I'm your host, Alan Cardoza. And for those of you that have been listening, sending in questions and comments, thank you so much. And please continue to help spread the word that every Monday from 11 a.m. to noon Pacific time, this show will bring on special guests that can inspire, educate, and in some cases entertain, while bringing answers and options to making our lives happier, healthier, and more successful. And if you can't listen live, all of our shows can be found at answers.network. And I also want you to know that I really appreciate it if you could all do me a wonderful favor. Please forward one of our shows to your social media group and to someone you know that can benefit from a particular subject. This is one powerful way that we can make a positive influence in the world together. Now, that's one of the things that we're going to talk about today, but I'm going to start with one of the questions that came in because it was so timely. Maureen from New York City writes, "My family loves your show. I downloaded your Attitude of Gratitude journal and gave copies to my immediate family around the 1st of November. On Thanksgiving Day, we each read from our journal something that we were truly grateful for. It turned out to be our best Thanksgiving ever. Now, during our meal, our 20-year-old daughter asked about generational trauma. We would love to hear more about this subject." Well, Maureen, I had to tell you, my producer has brought us a wonderful person to address that subject and more. Our guest, Judy Wilkins-Smith, is a highly regarded family patterns, systemic work, and constellations expert, as well as a transformational coach and motivational speaker who is passionate about individual growth, visionary leadership, and positive, accelerated global change. In other words, a perfect fit for our show. So she is the founder of System Dynamics for individuals and organizations. Judy has 18 years of expertise assisting high-performance individuals, Fortune 500 executives, including Chevron, JP Morgan, Kellogg's, and ExxonMobil, to name a few, as well as legacy families, ending limiting cycles and creating lasting breakthroughs and transitions into peak performance. Got to tell you, it doesn't get any better than that. She's a regular guest on TV news and entertainment shows and is the author of Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint, a powerful guide to transformation through disentangling multigenerational patterns. Sounds true. Judy, welcome to Answers Network.
Hi, Alan. It's great to be here with you.
Well, it is my pleasure. And I love the fact that from a timing standpoint that we had one of our listeners or viewers pose a question that I just thought was right there up your alley. So, but before we dive into even answering that or the book, what led you on a path to learn about family patterns, systemic work, and constellations?
It's what or who. I'm not too sure which of those it is, but my background is actually in medicine. So I was in the medical arena, moved over here. My father was killed. They failed him in all the areas that I was skilled in, and I knew that door had closed. And so it was a case of either write books or go crazy. And I figured that writing books was probably the better option. So we went with that. And doing research for one of my books, I met a person who had started doing this, and they said, "Come learn what I teach, and I'll help you with a book." Went and learned, got zero help with the book, just saying. But that led me down beginning to understand the patterns in families. And then I had people say to me, "Well, if you could do it for families, can you work with executives?" Well, executives are people too, so that was a no-brainer. And then they said, "Can you work with organizations?" So I learned about patterns in organizations because organizations are made up of people and people are people anywhere. And then discovered all of these patterns. I mean, Hellinger talks about them, but kind of uncovered a few that of my own. And then somebody said to me, "Well, of course you're going to know how to do this." And I went, "Why?" And they said, "Well, it started in South Africa." I didn't know that.
Oh.
Yeah. And they said to me, "So how about this?" They said, it started in South Africa with the Zulu tribe. when I left South Africa, the gentleman who gave my farewell speech was a Zulu gentleman. And he said to me, you may be leaving us, but you'll find a way to represent us in the world. And I went, yeah, yeah. And now I do it every day.
Well, if you can share with our audience a little bit about what this is, because I know that I've mentioned it. There are people that I talk to, I see at the gym or whatever, and they're like, "What's your show going to be about?" And when I mention things like generational trauma, sometimes people's eyes glass over. So share a little bit about what it is that we're talking about.
Okay, so I'm going to do it this way. I teach emotional DNA. That decoding your emotional blueprint is pretty much telling you what's happened, what it's cost you, and what you can do with it. So everybody knows you inherit your physical DNA, but
Right.
most people don't realize you inherit your emotional DNA. Your patterns of thoughts, feelings, actions, reactions, you inherit those. So you come on to work with me and you struggle with anger. You've struggled with anger since you were tiny. You've always been angry. Well, what we do is we go in search of the anger. Where did it come from? Who does it belong to? What was the originating event? And how has that cascaded those patterns down? Which it does. And so you'll have patterns of anger. Perhaps you struggle with money. In our family, everybody loses money. Okay, where did that start? What was the originating event? And if you don't know what the event was, look at your own life and see where it started for you. But the point remains that you're inheriting those patterns of thoughts, feelings, and actions. And we call those intergenerational emotional inheritances. But then you get multi-generational or generational trauma. So somebody in the family has something terrible happen to them, and then it seems to happen to every single generation. In fact, I think my favorite was a woman who came to see me and she said, I want to understand about my legs. And I went, excuse me? She said, yes. All the women in this family have these stocky legs. So I said, okay, talk to me. Let's see where we go. Turns out that for 6 generations, all the men had lost their right legs. So the women became the legs of the family. And what we don't understand is that we're sitting at all times with all the clues we need to make a great life, because it is not multi-generational trauma, it's a multi-generational gift. That trauma keeps echoing down through the generations and it keeps going, see me, see me, see me. Because with this woman with the legs, the woman had become strong. The gift was strength. Once she could see that, and this we find with everybody who works with us, the minute you can see the pattern that's trying to speak to you, it no longer needs to exist. But what it is asking is, I am a gift to you. Can you see what I can become in your hands? So let's go back to the money piece. You have everybody loses money, right? All the generations lose money. And everybody's terrified of money. And it's great grandfather's fault because he lost the money originally. So it's all his fault. Well, okay. And along comes 5 generations later, you come along, you go, but I don't want to lose money like everybody else. I'm going to do it differently. The minute you do that, you've seen the pattern and now you're changing it and you're writing the chapter that only you can write. So that so-called trauma is actually pushing you to turn it into the gift it was meant to be. So multi-generational trauma is one small aspect of it, but it is really a multi-generational gift, and you are the inheritor, and it's waiting for you to do something incredible with it.
Well, first of all, I love the fact that we're talking about something that's very positive that can come out of it. But what I hear you saying is that these things are passed down, and it really depends on us as to what we do with them or how we accept or don't
100%.
accept what it is.
100%. You can look at it through two lenses. You can say, me too, it's hit me too. Or you can look at it and go, I am never doing that. And you turn it around. Here's the problem. If you don't know what you're doing, you still miss the gift and that pattern will keep echoing. But the minute you can look at it and say, When I look at all of my ancestors and see how they struggled, thanks, guys. You're now teaching me to do it differently. You're teaching me to be mindful of it and treat it in another way. Because of all of you, I'm going to do it differently. And now I'm going to change the emotional DNA. And so we begin a new thing. So all of a sudden, your son comes along and says to his son, oh, my dad taught us all about money. He told us to be mindful. He showed us how to save it. He showed us how to invest it. But don't forget the event that started it. And don't ever exclude the one who was the starting person in that. They need to be seen and given their place so that you can take yours.
It actually, as you're saying that, it's reminding me of a story. So I want to use what you're talking about, but I want to address racial prejudice.
Sure.
And one of the jobs that I did in the past, I worked with at-risk youth, and in doing so, we worked with a lot of young people dealing with a variety of different traumas.
Sure.
And in one case, we had a young man who we were taking to a specialized program, but part of his issue was he had done some things that he was a white boy from a wealthy family, and he had done some racist things. And I sent one of our agents, a incredibly intelligent, compassionate, mentally, physically, and spiritually sound Black man to transport him to the program. And part of it was that I just thought it was the right person. But the other part was I thought maybe this young man had not dealt with someone of this caliber, that he just hadn't had this, or maybe it was something that was passed on. And I got a phone call over a weekend from an irate father who said, "You sent this man to come take my son to a program?" I said, "Yes, I did. Is there a problem?" "Well, he's Black." And I said, "Well,"
Right.
and I said, "Has he done anything incorrectly?" I said, "His job is he's to get there, he's to take your son and safely get him off to the program. Is there a particular issue something that he's done?" "No, but I can't believe that you've done this," and stuff. And I said, "Well, I guarantee you that he will do a great job of getting your child to this program. And it sounds like there isn't a problem that I can see. So thank you for your call." And I hung up. And Marvin, my friend and our agent that took that boy, was incredible with him. And I ended up getting a call because that boy went to a short-term program. We were then called to pick him up to take him from the short-term program to a boarding school. But they wanted to bring him home first. And I said, "Yeah, that's fine." And the father said, "Can you send the same man?" And I said, "We certainly can." And so Marvin went and worked the case. He picked up the young boy from the program, went back to the home because they had to pack up some things before he went to boarding school. So he was there overnight. I told the father that I'd book a hotel for our agent and for their son. He said, "No, I'd like them to stay with us." Okay. They went to dinner at the country club. Marvin stayed at their house. And the father called me afterwards, and then Marvin took him off to the thing, called me afterwards and apologized and said, "I think that I was passing on something to my son that needed to change. Thank you for introducing us to Marvin and us seeing what a great human being he is."
And there it is, right? That pattern. And sometimes it requires a bump. Sometimes it's not easy. And the change agent is the kid, but the change
Yes.
agent is also Marvin. And the change agent is the father. So you had a 3-in-1, which is remarkable.
Yeah, I was so again. I just think that I felt that it was so blessed that worked out the way that it did, um, and I was more looking towards the boy. And I hate to say it, sort of having given up on the prior generation, thinking that wherever he got this, I wanted him to interact with someone to just make him start thinking as a teenager about was this something he wanted to carry on. But as you said, there was a great bonus to this that even the father got it.
Yeah, and this is something that we find with generational patterns is that the minute it begins to change in one generation, the change echoes, it goes forward and it echoes backwards. So you
Mm.
see this all the time. It's remarkable, and then again, it changes that emotional DNA. If there's a strong enough emotional imprint on the system, that also it's been well studied, then creates an imprint that will activate or deactivate the proteins on your genetic piece. So now you've got a double time to change.
Yep. And the other thing that I like is that you talk about the fact that there's also incredibly positive patterns that, on the one hand, there are patterns that may not be so good, and we want to have a choice to be able to go in one direction or the other. But talk about some of the positive things that we can do, or that we can
Pass on.
pass on. But what are some of the things that can help us figure out which ones are the ones that are coming to us from past generations?
Okay, so that one's a nice, easy one, actually. What you want to do is you have a look at the places where you're stubborn, angry, upset, stuck.
Yeah.
Those ones. Stubborn, angry, upset, there's another one. But those are your big ones. When you really hold a dogmatic point of view and it's the right one, go looking because you're sitting with what we call systemic sentences. So a systemic sentence is a sentence or words that echo through the system. We don't like black people, as you just pointed out, or black people are, or we don't like white people because white people are, or everybody in our family loses money, or we're always depressed and sad. That's just how we are. When you're telling me that that's the way I am, there's a piece that's going, and is that the way that you want to be? So
And
those are
where
the
did, yeah,
places you
and where did that come from? I mean, isn't
it's
that also the question?
It's very much it's so the typically what I'll ask is, okay, when did that first start for you? What was happening in your life at the time? What did you make it mean about you? What did you make it mean about others? Is there anyone else in the family that has a pattern similar to this? Or anyone significant? Because if there was somebody who was significant in your life, that may also have impacted things, and you will have the multi generational pattern. So, those are the questions that you would ask yourself. And then, how would I like it to be? Because systems are elegant creatures, and so is systemic work. You're always sitting with here is a pattern trying to stop, and here is a pattern trying to start. And the two look at each other. So when I'm angry, and I'm always angry, what needs to stop? The anger. What's trying to start? I want to be joyful. I want to be light. I want to have that attitude of gratitude. I want to go out there and make a difference. You can. I think people do not realize how much power they have, not only within themselves, but within their family system if they know them, but
Mhm.
absolutely in themselves. The words that they speak and the actions they take, the feelings that they feel, all within our control, and we can use them for great good if we want to, and great success.
And from what I hear you saying, and this isn't just, I know we're talking about generational, but I think we're also talking about right now. In other words, it doesn't have to be a generational thing. And it actually makes me think that there's a story that a very famous major league manager talks about. In fact, I think it was Joe Torre, but in one of his books, he talks about the fact of the words that we plant in ourself. And
Yes.
he said him walking, the difference between him walking out to the mound and telling that batter or that pitcher, this batter likes the ball low and outside. don't pitch him low and outside. And he said the problem with that, or what he learned as a manager, is he says all that stuck in his head was low and outside. And so he did exactly what he told him not to do, and the guy hits a home run. So he
Yep.
said that what he learned as a manager from, in a young manager till a more experienced manager, was he would instead walk out there and say, you are great and you can get this guy out and you can throw this guy high and inside and you will strike him out.
There you go.
And he said just the difference in those two sentences was the difference between success and failure, both for that pitcher and for him as a manager.
So what he was saying there, and it's super, super, super important, is when the brain tells the body a story that the body believes, that's your new truth. Now, when I teach people, I talk about head, heart, gut. So it's never that you've got a closed mind, it's that you have a closed heart. Something happens and you go, and the heart shuts down and the brain goes into survival. And then the gut tightens. When your heart opens up, the brain goes, oh, good, she's awake. Let's go and look, let's look, let's look. And it starts to imagine. And then the gut becomes what it was always meant to be, which is the inner compass. So I say to people, you want to look for the alignment of their head, heart, gut. And they say, I don't know how to do that. And I go, oh, yes, you do. You absolutely do. You get up in the morning, you say, I'm such a fool. And your heart closes. And your head goes, yeah, I can't think straight. I'm such a fool. And your stomach goes, ugh. Now you've aligned negatively. All you got to do is do the same thing positively.
Yeah.
And Alan, I wish I could tell you how powerful we are within ourselves.
Well, with a lot of the people that you work with, where do most people struggle the most with their mindset?
I'm not good enough and I'm an imposter. I mean, I literally have billionaires who will tell me, I've got to keep saving. I've got to keep saving. I'm like, what? And then I go into their story and it's my family was never safe. And they've cottoned on to the event, but they haven't finished the event and said, now we are safe. It's okay to play. Or they'll say to me, somebody's going to find me out. Somebody's going to find me. I hear that all the time with entrepreneurs and I go, stop. You don't have imposter syndrome. You've got pioneer syndrome. Pioneer syndrome means I don't have the answers, but I'm willing to go and look. That's a pioneer. It is not an imposter. And when we start to recognize that, then instead of trash talking ourselves, we start to transform talk ourselves. And it makes all the difference. When your brain and your gut and your heart are aligned, you can accomplish what you want every time.
Now, is part of what you're doing, and I love that. You're changing the vernacular with them, but are you also making them aware of the origins so that they can put it behind them?
Absolutely. So typically what will happen is let's say that you have one of the kids that you're talking about who and I always think there was a famous NFL player, you'll know exactly who I'm speaking about, who was had up for murder. And then they found out his father had been and his grandfather had been.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you, it broke my heart because had I worked with him, I would have said to him, and what we do is we use live representatives because we're very easily able to transfer thoughts and feelings onto inanimate or other animate objects. So I would have taken a representative for his father and a representative for his grandfather and maybe one for his grandfather. And I've done that before. And I line them up one behind the other. And I get them to tell this guy, here's what happened, here's what happened, here's what happened. And then I would have turned him around and said, put your hands at his back and push him forward and tell him, do it differently. And I promise you, Alan, with just that, it's that boom, it's that whole visceral lock in that changes people and they go, I was meant to do it differently. If you look at Disney, Disney knows that. They know there's that the hero within, the bigger person within, and they tap into it directly. This work does the same thing. We use those live representatives. We go back to the event so they can actually see it and experience it in 3D. So now we're engaging multiple senses and they're having this visceral experience of what they've been through or what's out there. And then we start to change the language with them. And you can see the whole body shake or jolt, and it'll realign. And they'll actually turn around and say to me, I can't think that way anymore. No, because I can't feel that way anymore. And you'll watch the body realign. So it's 3D work, but it's taking what you've got in here, putting it out in front of you, working it in 3D, and the person walks out very different.
The book is called Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint. With us is Judy Wilkins-Smith. We're going to take a break. If you know somebody that can benefit from this, send them a quick message and tell them, listen, we'll be right back in about a minute and 15 seconds. So stay with us. You're listening to or watching Answers Network.
Conflict International are experts at uncovering the truth. Our specialist team has decades of experience in providing a range of bespoke investigation and intelligence services to companies and individuals. Whether you need professional screening or background checks of employees, due diligence of potential clients or business partners, asset tracing services, or surveillance, Conflict International has a rapid response team on hand to get you to the heart of the matter. Our key strength is in our global capabilities. We can tap into an extensive network of trusted professional investigators based in most jurisdictions worldwide, enabling us to go almost anywhere a case takes us. Conflict International has decades of experience with a diverse range of skills among our team, developed from backgrounds in military and security intelligence services, as well as practiced lawyers. Visit our website today at conflictinternational.com to find out more about our services. That's conflictinternational.com. Global reach, local knowledge.
And we're back. With us is Judy Wilkins-Smith. We're talking about decoding your emotional blueprint. Judy, one of the things you talk about in the book is constellations. So share with all of us, what are constellations and why are they so effective at revealing our family patterns?
So that's what I was actually talking to you about, that 3D process. Yeah.
That's the 3D process. Okay.
That's the 3D process. We use live representatives, and here's the interesting piece as well. We don't realize that we key into each other's systems all day long. You look at somebody and go, oh, or you look at somebody and go, gosh, they're nice. You're sensing into their system. And so people say to me, that's not possible. And I say, think about it. When you watch America's Got Talent or The Voice or any one of those, and somebody suddenly hits it and you get goosebumps, you've just sensed into your system. So when we use those representatives, very often the representatives may move or may say something, and my clients go, how'd they know that? How'd they know to move? And so while you're having this 3D experience, you're employing sight, sound, touch. So it's multi-sensorial, and it's an embodied experience. And this embodied experience allows you to shift in the moment. For some people, it can take a long time, but for many, it's in the moment. They that keeps repeating, and it keeps re-cueing them to have the experience and move forward. They now know that they're moving from what was to what's possible.
Yeah, first of all, I love the fact that you use the voice as a comparison of something to look at. The love of my life, and I watch The Voice, and we will listen to somebody, and then we will turn to each other. In fact, we'll pause it, we'll turn to each other, and then we'll talk about what we felt from that person, more than just, how pleasant the song was, but we'll go, I felt a connection, or I felt that, sometimes, and we'll say, wow, their voice is really good, but I felt nothing.
That's it. Yes.
It didn't connect with me. It doesn't mean it doesn't connect with other people, but it just didn't connect with me. So I love the fact that you use that as an example, because that is what we do.
I love that you do that. You're actually understanding that you're sensing into their system. They've opened up their system, which is why they have a moment. They're no longer thinking what they're doing. They're no longer doing it. They're actually being it. And when they drop into the being, that's when you can feel it, and it just shoots all the way out. And you can see it with the judges. You can see everybody it's like everybody sits up and goes, whoa, or you'll see the tears because we've connected.
Yes, I agree. Now, so once you've set up one of the, like a 3D constellation situation, and you've had these three people, using your example, that have said, this is what happened, and this is what we want you to move forward without trying to emulate what we did, or, don't take this with you. What are some things that we can do that allows us to break free and not fall back into that situation again?
Really good question. So that person is the change agent. So let's go back to the person with the father, the grandfather, the great grandfather. What I would have said to that person is, I want you to look at them and tell them, that was you. This is me.
Mm-hmm.
I see what happened for you, and I see what's happened for me. I need to choose to do it differently, but I will keep a place for each one of you in my heart, and I will keep you as motivation to do it very differently. Thank you. Because we need to remember that it is even the ugly patterns. In fact, it's often the ugly patterns that make us turn, or the scary patterns, or the sad patterns. I've seen I have people I coach who are top executives, and they will say to me, I watched my mother scrubbing floors. And I said, I am not doing that. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Mom. And they go, what? And I go, thanks, Mom, because I watched you. I knew I had to do something different. I watched your heart break. I watched your dreams fade. I couldn't do it. Thanks, Mom. In fact, I have one guy, a gentleman, who said to me, his father, whenever he would come and visit, would run away and sort of stand back behind the table, putting distance between them. And I said to him, yeah, you're a very, very wealthy man. He isn't. You've outpaced him, but he feels like he's not good enough. I want you to do one thing for me. And he said, okay. I said, walk in next time you go and walk up to him and say, hey, Dad, because of you, me. He said it changed everything. The father could take his place. He could take his own place, and the father could get, it doesn't mean that because I had a hard time, I'm no good. I am the seed that created you.
And first of all, I couldn't agree more. I love that approach. And it, again, makes me think of working with some of the young people, and they would say things about their parents. They
Yes.
would say, good or bad or whatever. And if they would say something bad, a bad trait or whatever, and I would say, so what do you think about that? Well, I think it's horrible, and I know I'm never going to do that. And I go, that's good. That's it. Because you figured it out. I didn't have to tell them, well, then don't be that. Just ask the question. Let them say, why is it bothering you? Well, I'm never going to do that to my kids. I can't believe they did, good.
So that the follow on for that is, because that's half of the thing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the following is, so what are you going to do that's different?
That's great. I love that.
Because then they know what you've just come from is instead of having a fate, now you've got a destiny. Now you're moving in a direction and you have a purpose. And when people have a strong purpose, it pulls them past all of those old excuses and into the new paradigm. So purpose is huge. And when I work with people, some people will say to me, why did it work for them and it didn't work for me? You've got to have a purpose that is stronger than where you are now. And it's got to have enough power and enough impact to pull you all the way past the old excuses. And if you can make it exciting and you can see something incredible on the other end, you will not give yourself a reason to stop.
That is great. Well, I mean, what are some of the specific systemic dynamics, be it families, organizations, career, religion, clubs, or whatever, that have influenced you the most?
Me. Probably family. I had a dad who came from a broken family, and his father walked out at the end of the war and left them, and he was in charge from about the age of 7. And he taught us family. He and mom. Mom came from a very, very together family. And it was about magic. And I think that's why Disney's probably, you'll see I always wear Mickey, is my favorite thing, because in my family there was magic. In my family, there was caring and kindness. And what could you do? And how, but my dad always said to us, and so did my mom, how far can you go? Because we're not about to limit you. How far can you go? I think also inclusion very much. I mean, my whole life, I would come home to find somebody sitting in the kitchen. They were hungry. There would be a meal. Somebody at the back door, they didn't have, they would be given. So I think that very much. And then absolutely, when I was 9 years old, I think I was about 9, Walt died. And I was sitting in the car and I said, no, 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 no. Who's going to make magic now? And everybody laughed and they looked at me and I said, well, then I will. And that has stayed with me. So for me, it's about the magic of the soul. It's about magic. I get magic. Magic isn't a nothing. It comes out of our mouths every day. We are wizards and we are magicians with our words and with our actions. And I say to people every day, be careful. You're casting spells with what you say. Self spells or other spells. We are doing it all day long. If you want to do that, look at somebody and make sure that the words that come out of your mouth will grow them.
Wow, I love that. In fact, for anybody that's out there, if you're listening, and again, and I'm not saying this to promote my show, but either send a copy of this show to somebody, even if it's just for that particular point right there. The wisdom in that, in the value of what it is that we speak and the direction that it takes us, either positive or negative, that can transform somebody. That part alone can transform somebody. Now, the other thing is that, again, it's in the book now, and I didn't get a chance to read the whole book this week. But so I'm looking forward to it because there are so many great things like that to where you go, I can make a difference. I can do it with my words. I can do it with my actions. And that's what's going on here. And again, Judy, I just can't thank you enough, that you're getting this information out there because you are changing people's lives.
Thank you. That's very precious. And I will treasure that. Yeah, words make a huge difference. I want to go back to that very quickly because there's something that I think I'll never forget. I had somebody come pick me up because I was busy doing the meditations or creating the meditations that are on my website. And the person picked me up. They were taking me to the airport and we had a long talk on the way there. And we left, and as I was leaving, he said to me, God, you should charge me for this. And I said to him, no, but you're super welcome. And I went, and I think it was about 2 months later, I came back and the same guy picked me up. And he said to me, I just have to tell you something because you spoke about words and the differences they make. And I said, sure. And he said, I had a gun in my compartment.
Wow.
I was going to shoot myself after I dropped you off.
Wow.
You do not know the difference your words will make or where.
That's incredible. Again, let me back up a little bit. So for everybody out there, and I do want to come back to, I want some more stories, some more success stories.
Absolutely.
But anyway, if you get a chance, I'm looking to where I have the website. So Judy just mentioned her website, and there are wonderful things on the website, and it is Judy Wilkins-Smith.com. If you're driving, you can't write that down. It's okay. We'll make sure that we have that on our site, on the Answers Network site. So it's more than just the book. It is the website. There is a lot of information out there that you can get from her website that you can pass on to others. And it's interesting, Judy, when you just mentioned the guy in the car that picked you up, besides the fact of, in essence, saving his life, my bet is that as he's driving now, he's picking up other people. I don't know how many every day, but he's paying it forward.
Absolutely.
Be sharing with other people. And that's what all of you out there can do. You can share it with other people. It's one of the greatest ways that you can pay things forward is by not only passing on good words, but sharing how they've affected you so that other people will continue to pass it on as well. So, Judy, again, one of the things that we get asked for a lot on this show is people will say, my favorite part of the show is the success stories. And sometimes they will say because it related to them or it related to someone they know. So if you can share a couple of your favorite success stories, and we have about 8 minutes left.
Okay, success stories. Gosh, I have so many of them. I've got to sit and think for a minute. I have a lot of people who will come into me really down and struggling. I had one gentleman, though, that I think made me just smile, because if you don't think that the universe is on your side, here we go. This gentleman came in to come and do a piece of work, and he wanted a constellation. And he said to me, I've been trying to get this particular deal done for 10 years. And I went, okay, let's just have a look. I mean, I'm not going to sit and do things here, but let's have a look and see. So we have a look, we identify some of the pieces, we start changing the speech and the phrases. He goes out, we go to lunch, we come back, and he goes, and I said to him, what? He says, they signed the contract at lunchtime. And I hear this all the time. When you remove your obstacle, something else can move in. Or when you're completely aligned, when you stop going, yes, but, yes, but, yes, but. So that was one of them. I think another one of my favorites is the lady who came in and she said, I want to do a piece of work, but I want to do it with my back to the group. And I said to her, okay. She said, yes, because I'm really not worthy for people to see it. My family don't even accept me. And I really, really, really want my family to accept me, and they don't accept me. All they ever give me are little drops of love. And I'm thinking, oh my. So I asked her for a history, and she said, I say to her, so are you married? Yes, I'm married. Are you happily married? Very happy. And my children love me, and we have good community, but my family. She said, my brother is like the rest of the family. He's very stoic, never shows emotions. I'm the opposite. And all they've ever given me is just these little drops of love. So listen to that language, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said to her, tell me the history. Tell me about your mom and dad. They were survivors from the Holocaust. And I said to her, stop. Were they allowed to express emotions? And she thinks and she says, no, not really, because it could have got them killed. So I said to her, but do you understand that the little bit that they could, they gave to you? And she went, oh, the little drops of love were for you. I said to her, what do you like in your community? She says, I bring lots of love. I said, how do you not belong to your family? You gave them a legacy. What they couldn't do, you took and you grew. And she turned around and she said to the group, now I can look at you. I think that's one of my favorites.
That's beautiful.
And then I think the other one for me was a girl who came in who could not get a job because she was too ashamed, and she was waiting for them to rush her out of the job and put her out of town. And I said to her, where does that come from? And she said, well, my father was in Vietnam, and when he came back, the city evicted him. We all had to leave. The family was pushed out of town. And she said, and I carry that shame. So we worked the whole piece through to where she could look at her father, and she could look at the soldiers, and she could look at the people back home and have those conversations and really start to change it. But the person she'd selected as her father didn't want to represent. And she said, but I want you. And he said, all right. And he represented, and he got to the end of it, and he kept saying, how is this possible? And he just sat down on the floor with a bump and he started to cry. And I said to him, what's going on? And he said to this girl, I will never look at that again the same way. My father was drafted and he refused. How did you choose me? Wow. Two people changed. And she said, now I can hug someone who gets it. And he said, I can hug somebody who's been through hell. I am so sorry.
Wow. Well, and what I like about this is that there are stories that everybody has. Everybody has something, and I think that in many cases, when people start judging before asking questions, they don't know what's going on, and so many times, somebody will, I'll be speaking with somebody, and they'll be sharing. Again, I'm an international detective, so I'm dealing with sometimes some very traumatic situations,
Right.
and and part of it is that when people are judging and they're constantly judging and focusing on the negative of somebody else, what can we do? In other words, we can't necessarily fix what their situation is, but what can that person do that's the one that's judging? What can they do differently that maybe will help themselves and the person that they're listening to?
Super simple. When you're judging, you're missing the clues. Get curious, don't judge. Get curious. If you get curious, you're going to be privileged to hear some of the most phenomenal stories you will ever hear in your life. You're going to see courage that you didn't understand was there. You're going to meet heroes. You're going to meet heroes like the lady who told me she was so embarrassed because her mother was a prostitute, only to find out that her mother was a hero because she managed to survive something terrible. She was never the villain. She was the hero. If we are curious, we will find the remarkable. It's when we judge that we shut things down.
Which is a great point, which means for everybody out there, ask more questions and give less opinions.
And listen to the words. Yes, listen to the words. I listen to repeating words, hot words. We're tackling on ourselves all day long. We're talking about our systems all day long. Listen to the words in your family that repeat, the phrases that repeat. What do they say about relationships? What do they say about money in your family? What do they say about careers? What do they say about success? And then decide, is that my fate? Or am I turning that around to create a destiny? The choice is mine.
Beautiful. So, Judy, I wish that we had a lot more time, but let me ask this: what's next for Judy? What are you doing now? What's coming up? What can I share with the people out there so that they can get more benefit out of you, your book, and the messages that you're getting out?
So, what is going to happen is next year I will probably be running 3 or 4 courses. The very big one is the one at the end of the year. It's usually a themed course, but the others are the ones that teach this. And people walk away every time changed. People do not come away from that unchanged. They can find that at my website. The meditations, if you want to change a pattern of your own, there is a meditation of the father and the meditation of the mother. The composer is an amazing composer. He actually composes for Joe Dispenza as well. And yeah, he's stunning. And then the book, I wrote the book, A, because I got nagged, and B, because I wanted to give everybody something that for once would really, really change their lives. If they pick it up and they read it, they will change their lives. That was the point of the book.
Beautiful. Again, the book is called Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint. Um, Judy, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for making a positive difference in the world. And again, folks, the website, I'll make sure that we have that listed. Go to the website, take a look at what's on there. I will be looking at it as well. I'd love to look at some of your classes, and maybe if we could have you come back next year and we can talk a little bit about the classes and the things that you're going to teach that people can then do this themselves.
I would love to come back. I would love to come back. The other thing that's what's up next for Judy is I want to see 700 or 800 people in a room, all there because they want to make a difference in their own lives and then get out there and make things happen. And that's the place to do it.
Perfect. And let me know where that's going to be, and I will make sure that our audience knows where you're going to have that 800 people, and you can get 799 people because I want to be the 800th one.
800th you are.
You got it. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was absolutely fun. I look forward to next year.
Sounds great. Take care. And for everybody out there, please visit our archives of past interviews at answers.network. You can find this show and so many others that will somehow find a way to touch your heart and be able to make a positive difference in your life. If you want to make it easier, just subscribe to the show. You can do it through Apple Podcasts, through iHeartRadio, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube if you want to see us. But there's also Rumble, Spreaker, BeatShoe, and many more popular podcast platforms. Anyway, if you like what you hear, please leave a review. It'll help us reach more people, and I want you to know that I greatly appreciate it. The next time you're on Facebook, Instagram, or X, Twitter, please remember, stop by our page, check out some of our latest shows. If you like them, please like us and spread the word. For everybody out there, be good human beings and be with us again next week on Answers Network.